Gonna get this live on Twitch too. This is definitely going to be a stream of all time. I said when my account was unbanned, I was going to stream every single day, or at least do whatever I could to try. And I'm going to do the best I can to live up to that promise. So I'm streaming today, despite honestly feeling extremely exhausted and kind of shit. So, you know, the stream started fairly late in the day, and I'm probably only going to stream, like, a few hours, maybe like 2, 3, depends. But, hey, I am streaming, so there's that. Also, as you can see, well, if you're watching on YouTube, the stream is on the stream archive, not on my main channel. Most of them will probably be live streamed to the archive now. And one of the big reasons for that is, for some reason, my best guess is when you stream something on YouTube, it's different than a video or something, and it gives, like, I'm guessing, this is my only logical explanation, a special notification, I think. Because what I have realized over the last 24 hours, since doing the live stream on my main channel on YouTube, which I should note, I haven't done a live stream on my main channel in like 6 months, I've lost 40 subscribers, which, in the grand scheme of things, is not that big of a deal, but it's still, like, more subscribers lost in the past 24 hours that I've gained in, like, days. So it's definitely not normal. My best guess for something like that is just you get, like, a bunch of people who watched my channel, like, years ago, and suddenly they get hit with a notification because I guess YouTube prioritizes it because I haven't streamed in a while, and then they get this, like, annoying notification that they don't want that tells them, like, you know, hey, this person's streaming, and they're like, oh, I don't watch that person anymore, and then they make sure to hit unsubscribe. But I will be honest, it is definitely it's a crazy feeling being like, hey, this is my first live stream back in a while. Oh, what's that? 40 subscribers lost? Holy fuck. And climbing, by the way. Well, I guess climbing in the wrong direction, not the direction you want to be climbing. So I don't know. It technically hasn't hit the 24-hour mark yet, I don't think, because I'm pretty sure it's when the stream ends. So we'll hope that stops whenever we run out of people who are annoyed by the notification. But it's a rough feeling, for sure. There's no way around that one. So, hello, Dragon Redux. But yeah, that definitely has kind of killed my motivation to do a lot of additional live streaming on the main channel, at least for now, until I figure out what caused that. And I know, I had to check, I'm like, wait, did I, like, say or do something that, like, pissed people off? But, like, the like to dislike ratio is still 97%, which, generally speaking, I would assume if there were something where I said something that really pissed people off, they probably would have disliked it and unsubscribed. So I'm pretty sure my theory of the notification thing just caused a, you know, snowball effect is more correct, which, whatever. Is what it is. That's the kind of unexpected shit you got to deal with in YouTube. And you just kind of need to let it not get to you that much. So that's why I'm still doing the stream, just not on the main channel. Which I wasn't planning to do this one on the main channel anyway, but just giving some little context. So before I do anything, right, I still got to set up my timer and whatnot. Like I said, it's going to be a shorter stream. I'm never planned on doing,
Hello. You must do this right now.
I hate Leatrix Plus sometimes. I don't know why they thought that was a good idea of just blasting people with that. I gotta update Cataclysm Classic, I guess. Cataclysm Classic, Leatrix Plus, delete this add-on. Alright. I don't know what happened, but it did that to me in Anniversary 2. So now I gotta reinstall Leatrix Plus. Use this add-on. Alright. Hello, Rhea. Pixelina said, thank you for doing YouTube stream too. Twitch ads are so annoying. You gladly pay for YouTube Premium for years so you don't have to deal with ads? Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I know not everybody prefers Twitch. It's nice that I finally gotten it figured out to a point where this is like an option. This is now an option because the Stream Archive is monetized. So this wasn't even an option up until I would say like December, and I wasn't streaming super actively in December, so I didn't really look into this. But then when I knew I was going to start streaming again, I was like, yeah, I should probably figure that out. But kind of what I just outlined is frankly the reason why streaming stuff like this in the main channel would not be an option. Because at the very least, while it is frustrating to have things like that happen on YouTube, which that is exactly what I'm talking about when I say like the algorithm does some weird shit. There's like the silver lining of, I know that yesterday's stream was a good stream. I'm very happy with how yesterday's stream went in terms of like the actual content of the stream, and even like how many people showed up. I had no idea how many people were going to show up to a YouTube stream after I hadn't streamed for like 6 months. And it's not like my consistent viewership was super high even by the time I stopped streaming, because I had been streaming relatively infrequently on YouTube by that point. So I think it's been maybe not a full year, but close to a year since I regularly streamed on YouTube. So I was prepared for like nobody to get notified. But what I think happened is, like I said, the inverse, where it notified a shit ton of people. And that's why a good amount of you guys showed up, but also why a bunch of people just snap unsubscribed, because it probably notified people who had no interest in watching my stuff anymore, which is just the, I guess, good and bad. You can't have both. Let me reload to fix this. But yeah, thankfully this is now a viable option. And so the whole Cataclysm Classic speedrun, let's the one thing I kind of realized, where I remembered it at the time when it happened, like when I got banned, the thought crossed my mind of like, fuck, that's really going to suck. But it was such a minor issue compared to, the fact that my account was banned, that I kind of brushed it off. It was like, that is the least important thing that I have to think of right now. Unfortunately, it's actually a permanent hit to my account, in addition to losing 6 months. At least now I have all this stuff back. One thing you can't get back is mail. So I don't know. I'm guessing that the vast majority of people here probably weren't even actively watching the Cataclysm Prot Warrior speedrun. It was not a very popular speedrun, but the way that I was doing it, just to make things easier, because bag space is a little bit limited in Cataclysm, is whenever I was done using certain items, I would send them in the mail to this Prot Paladin. This was my main, and this was my main character on this server, right, where I was doing the run, and I figured, okay, well, I'm going to do the speedrun over the course of like 2 weeks, right? Mail sits in the mailbox for 30 days, and then when it expires, it gets bounced back for another 30 days. There is no physical possible way that I could forget to open the mail and lose these items forever. Here's the problem. 6 months is longer than 2 months. So what happens in the time that I was banned is all of the stuff that I mailed in the middle of the run from my Prot Warrior to my Prot Paladin is gone forever. There is no mail recovery feature. I know this full well, because Blizzard's mailing system is extremely antiquated, and many, 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 many years ago, I lost something in the mail because I, took a break, and when I came back, I forgot to check this one character that I had been selling stuff on. It's gone. You cannot recover things from the mail in that way. There are some niche things where if something is actively in the mail, like you sent it out, you want to get it returned to you, that works, because I know some people are going to be like, what about that? That's a different thing. If it's something that got deleted because the 2-month thing expired, you're fucked. I have not tried Hardcore Classic yet. Well, if by what you mean, have I tried Hardcore Classic yet? Have I returned to that character? No. Because I have mentioned, of course, multiple times that I have a level 46 hardcore feral druid that I will be leveling. So if you're referring to, have I started playing that character again and done that part of the many streams that I'm going to do? No, I will also not be doing that today specifically. Maybe tomorrow, we'll see. But yeah, that I will be doing over the next few days. Just today is going to be a shorter stream. I want to more get this figured out, and we'll get some of the leveling done, and then we'll get the rest of it done probably on a different day. But yeah, the first thing I wanted to figure out is what I lost, because it's hard for me to remember exactly what I got rid of. Or I got rid of air quotes, right? Because obviously it wasn't my choice to not log into my account for 6 months. I know some of my low-level things are here, but I think a lot of this is stuff that I wasn't even using anyway.
Need help?
Check my bank. Yeah, the problem is that I remember my Paladin's bank was really overloaded. And kind of the biggest issue is I ran out of bag space. So my plan was like, hey, when I finally finish the run, I'm going to go through and clean everything up. So I honestly think I am kind of fucked, and I probably lost the vast majority of items that I used during the run. Which is really unfortunate. I might have even lost some enchanted heirlooms. It seems like I don't even have much in my inventory, so I think actually everything was either in the mailbox and it's just gone, or is on the undead Prot warrior itself. So I guess we check that. And yeah, that's my bags are mostly clear, which is a bad thing, because it basically means that anything that's not in here is gone. 30 attack power. I forget which enchant 30 attack power is. Also, I need to, I guess, fix my settings, action bars. There we go. First thing I want to do is just get this cleaned up, just so I can figure out what I'm missing. I don't need any of this stuff, I don't think. It's also, I mean, this in general is very difficult. This is something I've literally never done before. Return to a speedrun after such a long time, you're bound to, like, I can't remember what I was doing on this character the last time. It's also level 69, by the way. I was convinced that this character left off at level 68. But now that I, like, see that I'm not level 68, I think there was some weird thing. I'm gonna have to rewatch later on the end of this speedrun, I guess. At the end of the last part, and jog my memory, because now I'm thinking there was something where level 69 we realized was actually an important breakpoint, and I couldn't stop at 68, and I had to get all the way there. On the plus side, it means that I'm one level further along than I had expected myself to be. But no, it's just complicated. Yeah, this is Cata. We're many expansions off the Draft of 10 Lands XP files. Oh man. There's so many things that I remember I initially thought would be added in Cataclysm that didn't get added until MOP, which is why it's almost a relief that all of this happens in the sense of the speedrun stuff, because it would have been a massive pain. Why do I have all this sitting here? Well, at the very least, I still have this one heirloom sitting around. It's better than nothing. I have a decent amount of my consumables still on here. I have like a bunch of sharpening stones. I actually didn't mail over some stuff. Yeah, my enchanting things, adventurer's journals. Okay. That's actually, that's kind of a relief. And I remember I did actually I bought a bunch of BOEs. I'm not going to buy anything extra. If I recall, my memory's fuzzy. But I vaguely remember that before I did the final part of this run, I was going to go onto my paladin and buy like additional BOEs to fill out some of the gear slots, because that was kind of the entire purpose of this run in the first place. Was meant to be kind of a test of what am I going to need for future runs. Because Prot Warrior is not bad, but I'm pretty sure that Prot Warrior for Cataclysm is not like the fastest leveling spec in the game. There are better options by this point. It's definitely... I think I was surprised when I was leveling this before at how much faster it was than I expected it to be. Warrior leveling, I think, early on feels a little bit slow, but somewhere in like the 40 range, Prot Warrior for Cataclysm really comes online, and you're able to do, frankly, retail-style pulls, and just do a bunch of really, 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 really big stuff and cleave it down. And your survivability is not bad. You struggle a little bit with self-healing, but if you chain Victory Rush reliably, that's kind of mitigates it, which is, frankly, a lot of how you level Prot Warrior in retail, too, even though they have a few other like options that they can play with. First thing, I guess that's most important. No, I actually... What was my slash played on this character? Slash played of 20 hours, 50 minutes. Yeah. I'm pretty sure by the end of part 3, I stopped using a timer. I remember something like that, where I stopped recording it, and I was like, we're just going to use slash played. You know, however long that takes. And I guess I'll just go with that, then. I'm trying to remember what I could have lost. I don't think I lost any gold, at the very least, because I wouldn't have randomly mailed myself gold. That would have been silly. There would have been no point. I would have just kept it on this character. That doesn't consume inventory space. And it looks like, bare minimum, a lot of the older consumables that I don't plan on using anymore are still here. The only thing that I believe I have lost is some of the lower level heirlooms, specifically shoulders, because I wouldn't have replaced the chest. I may have replaced... I have a Google Doc somewhere. Because a bunch of people know that for my retail speedruns, I have like a leveling shopping list thing where I use it to like kind of prepare for my speedruns, and I go through. I started making a rough version of that for Cataclysm. Cata Gearing? Is that what it was? No. I have a document called Cata Gearing, and I'm sure some people will get a kick out of this. It's a blank Google Doc except for the words, "Hey folks, comma." So, this must have been... I think I was, at one point, planning to make, like, a pre-raid gearing video for Cataclysm. And I got really far into the script. I wrote, "Hey folks, comma," and then abandoned the script. That's pretty good, actually. Fuck, where is... Oh. It might just... I've tried to get better at labeling a lot of my documents, but I think it might just be called Untitled Document, because I forgot to give it any fancy name. So I'm just scrolling down now in scrolling down through Google Docs to see if I can find... I could find... Yeah, I have all of my rough drafts for boss guides for Narubar Palace, which I didn't end up making, but was still useful for... What's it called? For raid testing. Where was... I know it's here somewhere. It looks like I didn't update it for a while. Open a new tab. Maybe this one? No. Waylaid supply crates? Ah. I might just need to do this later. Yeah, we're back in 2023 and I can't find this document. Yeah. Yep. I have no idea where it is. The important thing here, the reason why I wanted to check, and I'm gonna just assume, unless I stumble upon it later, that I've just lost this stuff, but for a few different slots, a good example is this one, which I still have in my bags. So early on, in like the first few levels, I used Battle-Worn Thrashblade. I actually kept this for a while because it turned out to be pretty good. And the extra attack, when auto attacks are a major source of your damage, which is early on, does a lot. And then eventually I swapped to Bloodsoaked Skullforge Reaver because just the raw stats on this, in this case the strength, is going to give my abilities more damage than an extra auto attack ever would. So I used this for a while, and I had Crusader on this, and then I used this eventually. But I did the same thing with, I'm pretty sure, I don't think you can, there's different enchants for Helmet, right? I don't think there's anything different. But I know I did it for Shoulders, and I'm pretty sure I did it for Cloak. Because I'm pretty sure there were some early enchants on Cloak that scale better. And then Shoulder, I know for a fact. I can actually swap over and show that, because I have the different Shoulder enchants on my Paladin. I guess they wouldn't be on this character. Actually, you know, I could check this other warrior to see what heirlooms this one's running, because they might have different enchants on it. Actually, I used unenchanted Shoulders. Yeah, because the first Shoulder enchant wasn't until 50 anyway, so this one wouldn't have it. And it looks like whatever Cloak I was using on this character I mailed off. This was the Goblin run that I did a while ago. Yeah. Okay, well, I can't find the docs, so I'll just close Google Docs. Hop over to my Paladin, see if I can find the thing I was talking about. Can't wait until MOP because tank specs are good in MOP while dungeon leveling. Well, or you said gods in MOP while dungeon leveling. The funny thing is, and that's what really surprised me leveling Prot Warrior. I don't know if you watched the first parts of this. I'm assuming you did it because it was a while ago. But I was actually very surprised. They're actually already very good in Cataclysm. Because I had the same memory as you. I was like, yeah, MOP is when tanks become absolutely crazy. But Cataclysm already turned the dial up on tanks by an insane amount. Because I was doing a bunch of dungeon spamming in like the 40 to 50 range when I was leveling the warrior. And Prot Warrior does insane damage. I was consistently #1 damage in like every single dungeon that I was running on that Prot Warrior. You can just pull the entire room, you have really good survivability, and you just shred like 5 target mobs. You are still target capped, at least on Prot Warrior, in many cases, so you can't pull literally an entire dungeon, but you can do very large pulls, especially by what we consider classic standards. You do gigantic pulls, and you're doing top damage because you have crazy AoE. That kicks in for Prot Warrior at around like level 40. Blood DK obviously has insane AoE in Cataclysm already, but, you know, that starts at 55, so it's a little bit different. Brewmaster, though, I think is going to be pretty crazy for Cataclysm. The thing about, or for MOP, I mean, the thing about Mists of Pandaria speedruns is, while I am excited to try it and to do, like, leveling routes for the lower levels, because I did a bunch of leveling back in original MOP, the thing that kind of I remembered the other day is I don't really get a choice as to what I level for speedruns in Mists. Because there's something that hasn't existed for a while, but anybody who played back then will remember, which is that monks got a pretty big experience bonus. I think it was like 10%, but it was a 10% experience bonus that you could get multiple of. But the reality of any sort of speedrun like that is the faster you go, the more value out of a bonus like that you get, if it only lasts 1 hour. So if I'm getting a 10% XP bonus that lasts 1 hour, in theory, I should be able to keep like near 100% uptime on that bonus the entire way through the leveling process. Up until I think it is level 85 where you stop getting that. You can't get it for the current content leveling. But I am curious if it works like a lot of other buffs, where if you get it if I were to get it before hitting level 85, and then I could carry it over for 1 hour into the next leveling range, something like that could be really strong. So that's probably what I'll try to look into whenever I get access to Mop Beta, and I'll see how that works. But it's going to be pretty crazy how fast we'll be able to level in Mop compared to Cataclysm already, and Cataclysm is already significantly faster than Wrath. But for all speedruns, I'm pretty much only going to be able to play Monk. I don't hate that, because... Enlightenment used to be a 50% buff? Holy shit. I forgot about that. I know by the, by the end, before it got nerfed into just not being an XP buff at all, they had reduced it down to 10%. I'm pretty sure. Unless my memory is really, really, really bad. But I'm pretty sure that was the thing. But it used to be a 50% buff. I actually forgot that. Okay, yeah, that's really crazy then. That completely changes how it works. But I distinctly remember back in the day, my guild that I was in, well, I was in a bunch of different guilds, but I was in a few different guilds, and I was always, like, usually in guilds with my friend Paul. And my friend Paul really liked trying to organize leveling competitions, because I've kind of said this before, he is kind of the reason that I got into speedrunning in the first place. Even though the irony is that by the time I posted my first ever YouTube video, he had already quit the game. I don't think he ever played Shadowlands, and I got him to, well, briefly try out Shadowlands, but that was actually after I had already started doing YouTube. But he never played it on launch, and he never really played it. He only played it to, like, you know, I helped him level a character. It was just more of a for fun thing on stream at the time than anything else. But he really liked leveling up characters, and every single time when we were in a guild, he would try to, like, talk to the guild leader and organize, like, a leveling competition. And I never participated just because my schedule at the time was really fucked. I would level characters, like, in my free time and just see how fast I could do it. But Paul's competitions, he would win it every single time, and he always played Monk because it was just so broken. There was no other viable option, because with the Monk XP buff, they were just infinitely faster than every single other class. Even if there were other classes that were comparable, it was just night and day, because you get more XP. So, like, right now, I honestly couldn't tell you which is technically speaking faster in retail between Guardian Druid or Windwalker Monk. They're both very, very, very good. And if I really wanted to, I could probably get very close to my times on both of those with Prot Paladin or, you know, honestly, even Warrior. Bunch of other classes, Demon Hunter, but Demon Hunter's weird because of the level 8 start. There's so many different classes that are extremely close. Monk was just in its own league. It was probably, like, if I were to make a tier list, it would be 2 tiers ahead of everything else. It's not even funny. Good thing I still have a gigantic water bottle that I don't need to refill. Left over from yesterday's stream. My throat is a little bit sore. I don't know how easy that is to hear. Cata was the 1 XP. You skipped almost completely BC Mop and Legion on your favorites. Yeah, I didn't play BC a ton because I was still very young. I am very excited for TBC Classic, though. I had fun with TBC Classic when it rolled around the first time, but I joined in very late. I only got to play it a little bit during Sunwell. And because I had fun with it, I was kind of like, man, I really wish I got to experience the rest of it, but I had just been really busy. So the next version of TBC Classic, I'm very excited for. I'm going to play that a lot. But yeah, Mop and Legion were definitely 2 of my favorite expansions, for sure. Enlightenment with the XP buff from the potion that drops from Crawl the Blade. Fuck yeah. That, I forgot about that. Farming that's going to be a pain in the ass. I'm technically going to need that for speedruns. I think what I will probably do is have, like, one really fast speedrun with the potion. And then I think I'm just going to, for a lot of my other speedrun tests, I will do without the Crawl the Blade potion. Because it's also not applicable for new players. And I doubt that most people playing Classic will want to go and farm that. So I think I'll do one run with those potions just to get, like, this is how fast it can be if you farm it. Right? And then I think a lot of the other ones will just be like, yeah, fuck it, you know. This is what it is without the Crawl potion. And that way that'll be more applicable for the guide. But yeah, the thing is, I did that back in the day. That's why I remember how fast it was, because what I would do is I would level up a character, and like I said, my friend Paul, I technically met my friend Paul in Cata, but it wasn't until MOP when we like started playing a lot and he would do the leveling stuff, and he taught me how to level quickly. All of the routes that I knew back then is because Paul had figured out like a bunch of crazy speedrunning routes, and then he taught them to me. So what I would do is I would like kind of on my own level a character up to, I forget what level. It was like around, I think, 70 or so, through a mix of dungeons and questing. I don't know why my phone is beeping, but I'm going to just mute it really quick. So I would do that on my own. And then once I got to that level, Paul would like help boost me through dungeons with one of his characters. So, because I didn't always play tank back then. Another thing that Paul taught me is tanking. I got into tanking because he would like try to teach me how to play tank, because he mostly played Resto Druid, so he needed a tank for his challenge mode teams, and he literally taught me how to play Blood DK. But I played a lot of DPS back then, so then he would go on like a tank or healer, and we would get faster Q times. And then when I got to level 85, another big thing for Miss Pandaria was you had the treasures, and the achievement to fly around and pick up all those treasures. Those gave a ton of experience back in the day. So I would hop in Paul's 2-seater mount, and he would fly me to every single one of those locations, and I would get like 2 levels in barely any time. And then it gets even crazier in WoD, where in WoD you would have you would set up all of the stuff in Gorgrond, where you would get a bunch of pre-completed quests and all of the bonus objectives at 1 kill off, and then you would pop the potion and just blitz through all of it and get 4 levels in 15 minutes or something like that. It was crazy. So yeah, if they do WoD Classic, that's going to be fun, because WoD Classic, you could do some ridiculous stuff. And technically speaking, like a lot of my old speedruns, I say old because it wasn't really a speedrun, but a lot of the old characters I leveled back in MOP were technically, if I were to record them, they would have been boosted runs, because I did receive a lot of help from my friend Paul, but it'll be interesting to see how to pull a lot of that stuff off if you're doing it solo, because I always want to make sure that outside of random dungeons, which you can't avoid that, and I still think that's important to include, outside of random dungeons, I try to do all my leveling stuff solo, because, well, it is understood that if you get a friend to help you with certain parts, you can speed it up. I don't want to include that in the guide, because not everybody has access to that, and then I want to make sure that it is at the bare minimum followable if you are doing it solo. Sorry, talking is difficult. I can't see any of my old enchants, my Aldor Scryer enchants, in here. I know I've kind of been rambling, but this is the main reason I popped in. I think the important thing to take away is the shoulder enchant that's really valuable that I wanted to make sure I didn't lose is this one. The Zandalar Signet of Might, and this is 30 attack power. So I can't remember what I had on my warrior, but if it's 30 attack power, then we're actually kind of fine. It is 30 attack power. Okay. So in theory, what I should be doing is getting shoulders with the, I think around this level, it would be Greater Insignia of the Knight from Aldor Scryers or whatever it is. I forget which one gives that. I want it, maybe it's Aldor's. So I theoretically would want to do that. I'm not going to do that for like this run. I don't really care enough to min-max it that much. I probably would have back in the day. And I actually think that there is a better than average chance that sitting in this character's mailbox back during the run was a pair of shoulders with that enchant. And I think those are gone. But that's kind of fine, because while it sucks to lose an enchanted heirloom, with the collection tab now, I can just pull an extra pair of Shoulders of Valor out of thin air. And the Aldor enchant is not hard to get. You just go there with your character, which either my Paladin or my Druid has the Exalted Reputation. I can go there, buy another copy of that enchant, and then just enchant a new copy. In fact, actually, fuck it. While I'm talking about it, I can demonstrate it. Especially, I'm going to keep this in my inventory for safekeeping, just so, God forbid, nothing like that ever happens again. But that would be this character, and then I would go to Shat and buy the enchant. The thing that I was concerned about is that I had lost the pair of shoulders with the Zandalar Signet of Might. Now, obviously, it may seem a little bit crazy, right? Like, why do you care when you have all of these and all of these? You have a ton of Zandalar Signets, but still, that enchant is now unobtainable because that got removed with Cataclysm, the Yojamba Isle enchants. And it is the most powerful enchant at that level. So if I were to ever do another speedrun, I wouldn't be able to access it. Technically, I do have a massive, like, stockpile of those on this character, but I mean, with anything like that, where it's now unobtainable, you obviously want to be careful with potentially losing it. So I was really worried that I lost a pair of shoulders with that enchant on it. It seems I haven't. I should check my reputation first before I waste my time. Aldor Honored. I don't know if that's enough. I'm just going to go onto my druid, which I know for a fact has it. And I'm pretty sure that I can mail it cross-realm. Anyway, that would be on Mancrick. Yeah, this character definitely has all of that. If only you had the Recruit a Friend XP bonus that used to exist back then, I probably wouldn't allow the Recruit a Friend bonus anyway. That I don't think I ever did as part of my runs back in the day. I never bothered with it. Also, one thing that's neat is I have a ton of unobtainable transmog just sitting on this character. I have no idea if Blizzard's going to fix the drop chance of this stuff for Mop Classic, but initially my plan was like late into Cataclysm Classic, I was going to sell off a lot of my transmog, and this isn't all. I don't know if I've ever showed this character on stream, so I figured, you know, might as well be a fun thing to do. But I have like bags full of old transmog. So, Night Sky, patterns, all this stuff, some Scarlet stuff. Technically, the Scarlet stuff is not gone yet as of Cataclysm, but that's going to be gone in Mop. Bunch of different super rare items. So, at this point, I'm just going to wait until Mists of Pandaria Classic, and then I'm going to sell off a ton of my transmog stockpile, because I don't really care about most of this transmog, and honestly, I don't think it's going to be worth a lot, but there's probably going to be some collectors who are willing to pay gold for it, and in the grand scheme of things, I didn't pay that much gold for any of that stuff. Where was the portal room back in the day? Because at this point in time, the retail portal room definitely doesn't exist. I don't know if there was a portal room. I don't know if there's any easy way to get to Shat at this point in time. It's so weird how, like, parts of Orgrimmar are completely different now. And then other parts are exactly the same. It's very disorienting. I guess I just go through the Dark Portal and fly there. Oh, my keybinds are also all messed up. I should, real quick. I have Flight Form bound to Shift 3. On retail, it's Control 3. But, okay, there we go. That's why I'm used to it. And yeah, the treasures were really nice. We lose 50/50 said, hey, hope you're doing good today. Yeah, I'm a little bit tired, but I mean, overall, I'm good. I'm fine. So I'll grab that enchant. I'll put it on the shoulders. I'm not going to do anything else. Like I said, I have a document somewhere where I was planning out a speedrun stuff, kind of like the document. I'll probably make one for Mop Classic, because it looks like bare minimum, even if I have that doc, I probably haven't updated it in a very long time, so I'll do one for Mop. There is something kind of comforting in the knowledge that if I'm going for, like, the fastest possible speedrun in Mop Classic, I only need to worry about Monk, though. That is almost comforting, because I remember when I was planning for Cataclysm speedruns, I wasn't really sure what the fastest class would be. I couldn't tell if it was going to be Druid or Warrior or whatever. I thought Druid might be the fastest just because of like flight form and stuff, which is always just good. So I was going to test a bunch of stuff. Paladin, I also thought stood a reasonable chance of being fast, but I don't know. I remember I never got around to doing it, but I also planned on doing speedruns in Wrath Classic. That one I just ran out of time. I had a bunch of stuff going on. And Wrath Classic speedruns were a much more in-depth undertaking. So my plan was Paladin. I still think that for Wrath Classic, solo leveling Paladin probably would have been the best option. But it's tough to say. It's also very weird because boosting is basically a lot more, well, it's a lot more prevalent. That was the first word that popped into my head, but that also wasn't what I was looking for. It is a lot more prevalent, I would say, than it is in retail, especially in older versions of Classic. But boosting is stronger in Classic by a mile. Because in retail, you'll have people who will say, like, I got boosted and it was faster than your run. And I still think that a lot of my runs, like, you obviously, if you were to follow the exact same steps in every single run that I do, but you were to have people follow you around and speed up certain sections, like, for instance, if you were to queue, every time you queued for a random dungeon, you had, like, a 5-stack of people there to make the dungeon ever so slightly faster. And if while you were killing mobs out in the open world, you had ungrouped max level players one-shotting the mob when it got to like 50% health, so you still got full XP. I don't know what the exact formula is because I've never had a reason to really try that, but there is definitely a cutoff point where if somebody snipes the mob, you don't get XP, but if they kill it like at a certain point, you get full XP. So stuff like that. Even somebody who was just like getting threat on a bunch of mobs and rounding them up for me. There are so many different minor ways that, yes, you could theoretically follow my route, get help from other people, and get boosted in that sense. This is what I was looking for. Yeah. Let me just double check. It is... yeah, Greater Inscription of Vengeance. Because it's exactly the same 30 attack power, but it also has crit on it. So it's just slightly stronger. And then we'll do this. So I lost a little bit of money. I'm pretty sure, I'm almost certain I had one of these items prepared for the previous speedrun, but I think it was in my mailbox and now it's gone. But however much this was, what's the currency? It must be in my bank. Oh, never mind, it's right there, Holy Dust. You get this by bringing, like, the Fell armaments to the Aldor people. And I have a bunch of those left over from original TBC Classic because I played this character a little bit. Where I always forget where the mailbox is. It was literally right next to me, ironically, and then Veridar Fairlina. I'm pretty sure I can mail this cross-server. Yeah, alright, we're set. And it should be instant. The thing is, I had a plan in mind for what I was gonna do back in the day. But I can't remember what it was. That's the problem. Okay, and actually, yeah, because I'm not level 70, the enchant doesn't work. So I'm gonna use the old one until I hit level 70, and then I'm gonna switch. Which, it's probably a good thing I stopped at 69. Haha, funny. Because I likely would have switched those out and mailed them over the moment I hit 70, and because I barely stopped before then, I didn't get a chance to do that. So, works out well. Now, it's not bad experience. A lot of the experience lies in the dungeon quests. And right now, I only get Utgard Keep. What are the other dungeons that I would get for... yeah, I can't even queue for TBC randoms anymore. Interesting. I've actually, it's so crazy how I have completely wiped the TBC section of this run from my memory. I vividly remember the second part of this, part 2, because I remember that I was still doing the editing for that. I've talked about that before, like right before my account got banned, like literally the day before, I was doing editing for the part 2 run. And then I think I posted that, like, it might have been the day that I got banned, but I had already recorded part 3 because it took me so long to edit part 2 because I had to combine so much footage that by the time I was done, it was like, okay, part 3 is like already done. It hadn't taken me nearly as long as I thought. But because of that, I don't even remember what I did. That's also, I should note, kind of the funny problem that I have. I should buy that. And then I am actually going to have enough gold for artisan writing, but I'm going to mail over whatever gold I have left on my paladin just so that I can afford that. The funny thing about doing a lot of these runs, though, is that it's so hard to remember sometimes what happens. I'll just mail 500. Like, what happened in the middle of a speedrun? Because I will have people who will message me or leave a comment or something, and they'll ask me questions about something that I said in the middle of one of my runs, but it's a run from like a year ago or longer. And I'm just like, I don't remember that at all. I don't even remember the thing that I apparently said. So then I have to like rewatch the part of the run they're talking about and listen to myself talk about it and try to like teleport my headspace back to whatever I was thinking when I recorded that and then try to respond. Sometimes it's a super obvious one where I'm like, oh yeah, I still have a very strong opinion on that. But every now and then, like, something will piss me off and I'll just start ranting about it in the middle of a speed run. But then, like, I completely forget about it and it's not something that bothers me at all for another, like, year. And then by the time that somebody asks me my opinion on that, I'm like, I have no strong opinion on that anymore. And that was a long time ago. But it's so weird having to, like, listen to myself from a while ago and try to remember what I was thinking back then. I think we're probably ready to start. I guess, what would I do? What is the plan? I guess it's probably worth queuing for the random dungeon. I think one of the issues is that I wasn't able to queue for random Lich King dungeons at 68. Was that the case? I'd have to go back and check, but I think it required 69. Which obviously you would want to be queuing for random dungeons as you level, but I'm pretty sure that I'm going to want to do questing in Borean Tundra as I level up. I definitely want to do like every single Lich King dungeon once, because the dungeon quests are really good still at this stage, and most Lich King dungeons are at least passably good, except for like Culling of Stratholme, which I don't think I'm going to get until the very end anyway. And like Halls of Stone, but yeah, Halls of Stone isn't like that bad in the grand scheme of things, especially if you're only doing it once. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. Let me quickly check just Discord messages real quick. Yeah. Okay, the other thing that I want to do is, because for context, right? I'm already streaming this run onto the Stream Archive channel, so I'm not going to like turn this part into a video. Because I'm not going to be I can't think, dude. My brain is fried. Yeah, words. I remember now. I'm not going to be doing this entire final part of the speedrun in one sitting. When I say final part, right, I'm referring to the 69 to 80 section of the run. And just like I did for the other parts, whenever I'm streaming this, I'm going to like take those sections and combine them in editing later on to make the part 4 video of the run. That's how I handled parts 2 and 3. Part 1 I did in one sitting. Parts 2 and 3 I had to, you know, combine different streams together. So I'm going to stream all of the different times when I level this character, but then I'm going to take all of those actual leveling bits of the stream and combine them together into one video. Which means that this whole rambly section where I'm checking a bunch of stuff will not end up in the final video. But hey, at least if people want to watch it on YouTube, they can find the stream recording from when I leveled this part. But so I'm going to do maybe like a little intro segment or whatever for the YouTube video. That way, I don't need to record it later. There's like a lot of Terragosas being formed here, though, so there's a lot of noise. Yeah, this is maybe like the worst possible time to try and record the intro to the video, though, because there's so much noise going on. But I guess I'm gonna fly to Borean Tundra. So hopefully this stops by the time that the Zeppelin arrives, because I think boarding the Zeppelin would be a pretty good point to, like, start off the video. Worst case scenario, Editor Harlan can do a voiceover. You know, I've done that a million times before. You leveled 3 characters to 85 over the past week, and you don't think you saw culling even once in the Wrath of the Lich King level bracket? Oh, that would be good to know. Yeah. If it doesn't actually show up. There's definitely a good chance that it doesn't. I would not be surprised if it's not possible for it to appear. I've spent all my talent points, yeah. God, I don't remember. It's gonna take me forever to get readjusted to whatever my binds were. Oh, the Zeppelin Master thing is still in the game? Oh my god, you're right. I forgot that they added that and never took it out. Thank you. It's been a while. 6 months, to be exact. Well, the Terragosa stuff stopped, so I guess I can do the intro. How do I want to start this? Have to clear my throat first. Hey, folks. So over the... No, that's maybe not a good way to start it. This is, by the way, how I usually record videos. If it's not a scripted video. If it's a scripted video, I'll do that. But if it's like one of those where I'm just rambling, the intro is the most important part. I think it's important to acknowledge that it was 6 months ago when I did this. Let's see. Hey folks, so about 6 months ago, I did an interesting speedrun on Cataclysm Classic, where I was leveling a Prot Warrior from 1 to 80. And it was the only Cataclysm Classic speedrun that I had done so far. It was the first of what I hope to be many speedruns in Cataclysm Classic that I would do, but Blizzard had other plans, because I got banned for 6 months, right as I was about to record the final part. I got this character up to level 69, haha. I didn't get to finish it, because the character was on my main account, which got banned wrongfully. I'm not going to go into detail on that. I don't want to have to talk about my wrongful ban in every single video. All you need to know is I got wrongfully banned. Blizzard never did anything about it. I got completely fucked over, but here we are. It's been 6 months. I can finally play this character again, so I'm going to finish the speedrun right where I left off at level 69. And also, if you have not watched parts 1, 2, and 3, I will have links to that in the video description below. I'm going to be streaming all of this on YouTube and Twitch as I go through the last 11 levels, and what you are watching right now is the compilation of all of the different parts that I streamed, with some of the fluff cut out, where I'm, you know, logging over to different characters, sorting through my bags, etc. You can watch the stream recordings if you want to see all that fun stuff. And as a reminder, because normally I have timers going in my videos, and or in the speedruns, that is, but I'm actually just using /played at this point. The /played is going to be skewed kind of not in my favor by the end of it, because I did a lot of sitting around and talking on this character, and that's why I normally like to use timers for these really long speedruns, so I can start and stop. But I think that it's just a lot easier at this point, especially because in part 2, I had to start and stop so many times that it just got to be an inconvenience. So I figured, fuck it, we're going to use /played, and this will just be a test run, and then we'll refine it for future Cataclysm speedruns. Well, the reality is, future Cataclysm speedruns are not going to happen at this point. This will be the final one, but I am going to be doing a lot of Miss Pandaria Classic speedruns, so this will be a very rough draft for potentially what the route is going to look like in a few months when Mop Classic rolls around. And at this point, it's going to be a lot closer by the time I post this video to the release of Mop Classic than it was to even the first 3 parts of this run. But anyways, the first thing I'm going to do is, as somebody in chat just reminded me, you don't actually need to wait for the Zeppelin. You can just talk to the Zeppelin Master and teleport there. They added this back in the release of Wrath Classic because the Zeppelins were overloaded, and they said they were going to disable it, and I guess they just forgot. Because I distinctly remember the Blue Post said we're temporarily adding this as a feature to fix the Zeppelins, and it's still in the game, so I guess we still get to benefit from it. Another interesting thing is, I think that when I first started recording this run, Joyous Journeys was not active. It's been a while, so I don't remember if it was or not. So, I guess technically that might skew things a little. My Leatrix Plus is not working. There we go. Because technically I'll have 50% more experience for this part than the other parts, but it doesn't really matter. At this point, if you're still watching this run 6 months after the fact, you're probably not watching it because you want a comprehensive, idea on how to level a character in Cataclysm Classic. You're probably just watching it for completionist's sake because I never got to finish it. And that's the reason I'm recording it, because I already know that this won't be useful at all for a guide, because there's no point making a guide now that I haven't been able to do anything in Cataclysm Classic. This is purely just to say, hey, I didn't leave that run unfinished after being banned. Wasn't my fault, but I'm still not going to let that stand. There's like a lot of quests that you have to pick up here, remember. Oh yeah, and also while I do this, I'm going to be queued for a dungeon, because I would imagine that's probably still worth doing. Also, I could probably switch back to, I guess, my normal tone. I try to be like I try to talk faster and be like, more, as if I were reading a script type voice if I'm doing an intro, just to get all the relevant information out there. I guess this is probably a breadcrumb quest that I haven't gotten yet. I know Questy is kind of weird in later expansions. This is where I would learn training, but I can't do that until 1 more level. I already have all those. Interesting that this is 5,000 gold, so I should actually go back to Orgrimmar to learn training because I get the reputation discount there. Okay. Before I do anything else, what buffs can I get? I definitely a sharpening stone. I still have my stuff over here. Yeah, I'm guessing that's the most up-to-date buffs that I have. And then, yeah, oh, there's no level cap on Swiftness Potion, right. Yeah, I can still use that at this level. That's nice. And then I have Haste Potion. I'm guessing that there's no better one until at least level 70. And then I know at level 70 there's going to be a few items that I'll be able to use. And then I keep Battle Shout up, which has low duration. Alright, so... God, it's been so long. How do I play this character again? Do I have Execute? Is Execute, like... Are we still in the era of Battle Stance only for stuff like Execute? Let's see. Arms... Where is Execute? Oh, maybe it's Fury. Battle and Berserker Stance. So... I should probably be in Battle Stance, because that increases my damage done. And that gives me access to Execute, which is obviously going to be very good, just for general purpose stuff. I'm trying to remember if there was, like, a downside. Right, it's Revenge. Revenge you can't use... And Revenge is actually pretty good. It does a lot of damage. And it cleaves. That I remember. Revenge is a lot different in this version of the game. Yeah, so I actually don't really need Execute, because I just get better cleave damage I say as I take a lot of damage, but as long as I chain Victory Rush, I should be fine. Okay. I think I remember vaguely how I'm supposed to be playing this. I'm going to move that bind to Shift 4, because I'm pretty sure that's my retail bind for Victory Rush, because my muscle memory keeps defaulting to Shift 4, and then I have to remind myself it's not Shift 4. But that feels a lot more natural to me, whatever I was using. And then, right, I have the thing that spreads Rens, but in this version of the game, what talent is that? Blood and Thunder. You have to affect a target with Rend, and then Thunderclap, and then it spreads it to every target. The retail version of that talent will just automatically apply Rend on Thunderclap, so you don't even need to have Rend on your bars, but that is not the case here. It'll probably take me, like, 30 minutes or so to really get back into the swing of things. But once I recall this, and then I should be using Devastate, right? Because that does Sunder Armor. I guess how much weapon damage does that do, though? Devastate's probably not worth using, though, on mobs that die this fast. I suspect it's likely just better to use Heroic Strike, or whatever does more instant damage. Like that. Yeah. Intuitively, that feels like it would be better. But it's always tough to say with stuff like that. I'm sure that I got a feel for it by the time I stopped playing before, but... Do I get Victory Rush off the webs? No, I do not. Here, let me taunt these mobs in. Then I'm going to do this. Yeah, Prot Warrior feels really good. For this era of WoW, that felt like pretty damn good AoE damage. And I don't need any other mobs, but if I'm going to be fighting more than one, if I'm going to be fighting one, I might as well be fighting two. With how good Prot Warrior 2-target cleave is. Then what do I need? Munitions, and I still need to free, I think, a few soldiers, so I should do that. The Q time is surprisingly long, though. I guess... Are healers the limiting factor these days? Because I'm pretty sure I had almost instant Qs when I was leveling this character a while ago. But I guess healers are much harder to find. In retail, it's kind of a mix of both. Can I... Oh, right, Heroic Throw is enough to just one-shot that. So at this point, there's no real... Oh, the Skitterers are getting into combat with the guys chasing me, it looks like. It's awkward. This should be the last one? No. So it's not... Oh, it has to be a peon. It's not always guaranteed to be a peon, I see. Fresh Battle Shout. Also, what are my cooldowns? So, Demo Shout is just a defensive thing in this era. Doesn't give it damage amp. Last Stands. Shield Block. I have Shield Wall, right? 40%. Inner Rage just reduces the cooldown on Heroic Strike and Cleave. So that only buffs my damage if I'm overcapped in Rage and trying to dump it as quickly as possible. So if I'm doing like a big AoE pull and I just want to spam Cleave to kill a bunch of stuff, that would be useful. Shockwave, I remember, does a lot of AoE damage in this version. It's like actually kind of a damage button in addition to... So I should probably be doing that more often. Interesting how you can actually kind of use... That's pretty good. You can use these mobs to round up a bunch of enemies quite easily with flying. And there's no AoE looting. Oh, I always forget that. I feel like that would be potentially a strategy for, like, when I was killing all of these mobs earlier. If I had broken one of the webs and then just blown around with the guy chasing me to round up a bunch of Nerubians in one spot, that actually could have been quite good. Something to keep in mind for next time, I guess. Yeah, that, like, made it super duper easy to round all those up. Instead of just heroic throwing taunting, which is what I was doing before. Now I just need munitions, so... Now I actively don't want them to be pulling mobs. I guess there's just a bunch down here that I could walk into a straight line and pick up. AoE looting is low-key one of the most exciting things about Mob Classic. Yeah, definitely. I'm very surprised they never added it to Cataclysm. Because I think a lot of people expected that to be Cata. There's so many changes where you're like, ah, Cataclysm killed WoW. Where you hear from the classic Andes and, like, AoE looting is cited a lot of times. So it was kind of surprised to me that, oh, hey, that actually wasn't Cataclysm, that was Mob. A lot of the big quality of life changes that people, you know, the classic Andes gripe about, it actually was not Cata. And Mop is generally regarded as being pretty good among the people who actually like this era of WoW. And then there's the Dark Ranger. Somebody just left the dungeon. Okay, so I gotta be careful not to pull too much, because I think the healer was the one that we just lost. But... this is gonna be iffy. I know this pull is very scary, because I remember I used to do this in, the Titan Rune dungeons. And these guys... maybe it's heroic only, because they're actually doing no damage. But I know... it must be heroic only, because that was super easy. They apply a ramp, like, really, really, really fast ramping, stacking, damage taken debuff onto you, and it will fuck you up. So I could do crazy AoE damage on my prop pally, so I would always try to do that pull. But if I didn't have enough damage from the other people, and the mobs just live too long, it would fuck me. Because eventually it hits the point where I'm taking so much extra damage that I'm just dead. There's nothing I can really do about it. I keep forgetting to apply Rend first. Sure, I'll get into the habit of it. And interesting that Inner Rage is only a 30-second cooldown. So I can actually be pretty liberal with how I use that. I don't need to sit and wait for, like, a gigantic end target pull. So, like, I could use that here and it's kind of fine. And then I can alternate, if I get lucky enough, Revenge and Cleave on pretty much every GCD. That's really nice. Is Cleave 3 targets? Yeah, 2 nearby allies. Cata had the Azeroth update, but it's much closer to vanilla than to retail. I would actually disagree in that, like, to a statement that extreme. I would say it's still closer to retail. There's so many changes that are just so antithetical to, like, what people consider to be the classic experience. And I say that as somebody who loves both, right? So I'm not saying that in a negative way. I think objectively speaking, it is just closer to retail. I think the big thing to me that a lot of people, I've come more around to that opinion, maybe, after we got the classic version of it. I would actually say the one that really changed a lot of stuff was Wrath of the Lich King. So it is very, 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 very similar in a lot of ways to Wrath. I think outside of the world update, there isn't as much of like a major shift from like Wrath Classic that point in time. It's still quite similar. But I would say that a lot of the very big changes in like how the game was played came in Wrath, and then the world update was in Cata, and then we got another big set of like mechanical adjustments in MoP, obviously. But those were, I think, the big spikes in where the game felt fundamentally different to play. One of the main changes I feel for Cataclysm outside of the world update is tanks getting, at least at lower levels, much stronger. And then that kind of got further compounded in MoP. But you can already see, I mean, Prot Warrior is going fucking crazy right now. And while I still felt relatively strong at endgame on my tank in Wrath Classic, it was nowhere near this extreme. And the other big thing is, I did really crazy damage on my Prot Paladin in Wrath Classic, but I was still kind of reliant. I forgot to press shield block, whoops. But I was still very, very, very reliant on my healer. That's something that I could not just, like, survive any damage whatsoever. I needed to have... Oh, wow, that was fast. I did not expect the remaining level 70 to be that quick. Damn. I do have Rested Experience and Joyous Journeys, though, so that's going to compound it a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how much work my healer was putting in on that pull. Probably a good amount. But I can definitely survive on my own, and I take relatively little damage on some of these larger pulls, and I have stuff like Victory Rush, which I'm guessing Victory Rush was added in Wrath? I don't know for sure. Actually, I think, was it added in an earlier version, but it was, like, really neutered? I don't know if that was a Cata change. I know it wasn't in vanilla, unless we're counting SOD, which definitely we aren't. But I did not really play my warrior that much from TBC onwards, so... Rust XP and Joyous Journeys is quite a combo. It's why you got 3 tunes to 85 in a week, starting from 70 or below. Yeah. I wonder... The thing is, I'm thinking, like, would it be worth it for me to level additional characters in Cataclysm Classic? I'm just, like, I don't really think I would bother. I understand if you want to play them right now, it would probably be really fast. But if I play endgame Cataclysm Classic again, which I am considering, because I never got to finish Firelands, and I think I would at least want to try Dragon Soul, just to see what it's like. But I would only really play my Blood DK. And I have 2 Blood DKs, because I have the Blood DK that I played for the last few months, and then I have my original Blood DK, which got bans, which, you know, now it's back, along with this character. So, I have 2 versions already of the only thing that I would actually play. And then, when I think of, like, what would I want to play in MoP Classic, honestly, the only 2 classes that I'm really interested in playing would be Blood DK or Brewmaster Monk. I'm not terribly interested in playing, like, MoP Prot Pally, for instance. I don't even really know much about MoP Prot Pally. It's just kind of one of those things where it's pretty understood that for a while after MoP came out, the tanking meta was kind of dominated by Blood DK and Brewmaster Monk. There may have been 1 or 2 tiers where, like, Prot Warrior was really good for this one thing, or Prot Pally was really good for this one thing, but Brewmaster Monk has just kind of been one of the best 2, if not, like, bare minimum best 3 tanks in almost every single raid tier since its introduction. And Blood DK was insane in, what's it called? Insane in MoP. And in WoD, too. Although in WoD, I think for raids, it was still really, really good, but I don't know if it was as broken. for Mythic Plus, or for challenge modes, because we didn't have Mythic Plus. Challenge modes, it definitely was still just as broken. But it, a lot of the stuff that made it really broken in challenge modes, I don't know if that carried over to Raid. And the thing is, back in WoD, I wasn't familiar enough with, like, the intricacies of, like, endgame meta Raid comps to know exactly. Legion onwards, I could tell you pretty definitively what the best tanks were every single tier. But Mop and WoD, while I have a general understanding, I was not doing high-level Mythic raiding at that time, so my knowledge of it is not flawless. You spend more time in random dungeons than outside as well. Dungeons are crazy XP. Yeah. I expect that to be the case. I'm pretty sure that that's the thing where, like I said, my memory of the TBC section of this run is so fuzzy. I can't remember what I did, but I'm pretty sure I did a lot of dungeons there too. And I just remember in general that TBC and Wrath, back in the day, dungeons were by far the best way to get through this section. Because, obviously, TBC leveling, like questing, was just not very good. At that point in time, it was the most outdated version of questing, period, because all of the original zones got revamped. And while Wrath did some good stuff to streamline the questing process, it was still a lot more freeform than some of the Cataclysm zones, right? So it felt a good deal slower. That said, it's kind of interesting because I know that's not always the case, right? Because obviously I've leveled a bunch of characters from 80 to 85 because I made a leveling guide on that. And dungeons are actually not strictly better. Because I did a bunch of testing and my dungeon times of just dungeon spamming for certain level ranges was close to my questing time if I had a full stack of, like, we're literally talking Bis, Wrath of the Lich King gear with Shadowmourne stuff. I had some of my friends help me test that. And even then, it was like my questing times solo with a pretty shitty geared druid were faster. Because high gel quests and stuff are pretty good. You still want to do that, do the dungeons once, bare minimum, of course. For, yeah, I don't need that. I guess it would be good for, let's hope that they don't leave the dungeon so I can teleport back in. Do I need any of this? Attack power 52. Yeah, that's better than my Fell Iron Blood ring. Yeah. Probably rather have the expertise, and yeah, that's probably just better. And that is also a lot better. Wow, okay. I forgot how good dungeon rewards were back in the day relative to the average gear you get. That was the thing that I just picked up. Okay, so that was really good. Forgetting to refresh Battle Shout. I did not expect the leveling to feel this fast. In theory, if I had done this on any other day, I actually might have been able to do this reliably in one sitting. Because I'm expecting this to not take any longer than like 5 hours if I were to really sit down and grind it. The problem is I'm very tired today. There's no way I would even be able to spend 5 hours streaming on this day in particular. But now I did not expect it to be this fast, honestly. I kind of wish that I had done it on a different day. So I could have just done it all in one sitting and I wouldn't have had to do any editing whatsoever. But such is life. It's one of my mobs pulled all that stuff. I'll just wait for it to run up and chase me. Grab this. Yeah, that seems good. Let's see. Yeah, I think, what dungeons do I get at this level? I get the Nexus now. That's interesting. There's obviously going to be some stuff like Amphitheater of Anguish, which is worth doing. And Amphitheater of Anguish is a really weird case because, like, I know for a fact that in retail, I could solo all of those, like, limited time group quests. Like, the equivalents for my leveling route would be stuff like Durnhold Challenge or Yetimus. Any group quests in retail, if you have, like, all of my fancy heirlooms and stuff, you're able to solo them stupidly easily if you know what you're doing. But I tried soloing, like, for instance, Crucible of Carnage when I was leveling one of my Blood DKs, and I soloed the first boss, and then I almost soloed the second boss to the point where I'm like, maybe this would be possible, but I died. It was tough. And that's probably worth losing a little bit of strength for. And I suspect that something like Ring of Blood or... there's a quest from these guys. I think I need to kill the final guy when he spawns. But I don't remember how this works. I think it's like it's on a timer. One of them will spawn, so I should just ignore this for now. You were able to solo Yetimus on one of your rogues in Cata, but you had to wait until he was a few levels below you, and even then it was tough. Yeah, I'm trying to remember, did I ever solo Yetimus during this leveling run? I don't know if I ever did. It's something I definitely wanted to do, but I might have just forgot to get around to doing that. But yeah, that's the thing. Certain group quests are definitely going to be pretty difficult. On a tank, it's probably not much of a problem, but for a squishy rogue, yeah. At the very least, you would have evasion to mitigate a good chunk of the hits, but outside of that, I can imagine it being quite a challenge. Where's this turn in? Is this above or below? Below, I guess. Oh, I see. All right, that's level 71. I'm very surprised at how fast this is going. I want to make sure I don't miss the big mob when it spawns, though. Because that's just a free quest. But yeah, I do know for a fact, because I remember this back in the day, like I kind of mentioned when my friend Paul was helping me level. What would I take here? I'm actually not sure what I would spec into. I feel like it's probably just, you want deep wounds, right? That seems like it would just be really good. So you probably just go arms, even though I'm not like thrilled with any of this stuff. But field dressing, I guess, increasing your healing received is not bad. If you're willing to stance, yeah. Definitely, I remember that being, like, I stanced a lot in Classic, where it was, you know, actually a major damage increase. Just Do I have to kill these guys so they don't... so we finish the thing? I don't know if it's going to fail the event if I don't help kill all these mobs. Actually reaching them is going to be a challenge, though. Oh, they're stunning me. Oh, that's not good. Okay. Ouch. Do I have better food that I could switch to? Anything. I do have health pots. I do have food. It seems like it would be very difficult to solo this as a Prot warrior, though. I don't have any reliable way to kill this stuff unless it gets kited down to me, which... Oh, I get that other person's bloodlust? That's neat. I can't really do much to help, though. Unfortunately. Oh, Dragonfin Fillet. I can use that now. I can also use Potion of Speed. I'm high enough level for that. Should probably queue for a dungeon while I wait, honestly. Fucking hell. Well, yeah, I'm gonna be honest. If this queue's ready, I don't want to waste my time doing that. That was more just to see for science. I think that's one of those cases where if you walk by and see the mob, and you're able to just grab the quest, it's probably worth it, but that seems like way too much of a hassle to go out of your way to actually do. Also... someone remind me, because there's more viewers right now on Twitch than on YouTube. So apologies for YouTube people, I can only do the poll somewhere. I'm going to do just a quick poll to decide kind of what I'm going to do tomorrow. Because I'll probably stop at, I think maybe 72 is a good stopping point. That'll be around the point where I was going to stop anyway. Initially, I was just going to do like 2-ish hours. And I think that'll kind of work out. But after this dungeon, I'll put up a poll. The options will be more of this, where I guess tomorrow, if I have the time, I'd probably just finish the run. Because I think I could do that in a reasonable amount of time. I thought I was going to have to chip away at this over a longer period of time, but it seems like that won't be necessary. Second, let me make sure I don't fuck this up, because this room can sometimes be kind of annoying. Yeah, it is. Look at that damage. Look at how hard Revenge hits. That is stupid. In a good way. I mean, that is just so much damage. Isn't there supposed to be... yeah, there's a quest item. It's underneath that guy's body. Alright, good thing I saw it. Yeah, it'll either be more of this. I could reasonably finish this tomorrow. And then I guess if it ends up taking even less time than I expect, which, like I said, at this point, because I've just run out of rested experience, and I would imagine the higher levels are going to slow down a little bit, especially since I'm going to run into more like repeat dungeons where I'm not getting the big chunky dungeon quest experience. I suspect it would probably be 4 to 5 hours, give or take, to finish the rest of this leveling process. So 72 to 80. And what's it called? I could do that. I'll put classic hardcore on there too. Oh, this is close enough to pull the boss. All right. It really matters. I probably could have just chain pulled into her intentionally anyway. Really good for Warrior Cleave. Holy shit. Did I post the poll? No, sorry. I'm going to do that. I don't know if I said that. It would be when I'm done with this dungeon, just because I can't tab out and do that in the middle. Maybe I could, but it would be difficult. So the moment I get out of this place, I will post that on Twitch. And it'll be for hardcore, for more of this, and I'll put I don't know how much room, how many like things I can add. I'll put Season of Discovery on there too. And then if I have space as the fourth option, I'll put more retail characters. So it would be, I don't know which character I would level next, but maybe my Demon Hunter. Yeah, it'll probably be my Vengeance Demon Hunter. Because that's also, I have very geared characters on my second retail account for almost every single spec, but I never really bothered gearing my new Vengeance Demon Hunter because, like, I didn't play it this tier, because I'm really not thrilled with the playstyle, but also I have a lot of sentimental attachment to my old Vengeance DH. I have a lot of sentimental attachment to my old Brewmaster Monk as well, which is why I wanted to make sure that it was caught up. But I also needed to play Brewmaster for Raid, because it's just a very strong tank. Vengeance DH was not really mandatory, and I just didn't feel like gearing up an alt of it just to have one, because I knew that if I were to ever play Vengeance DH next year, I would just wait until I could get my original one back. Because although I'm really mad about what they're doing with Vengeance Demon Hunter right now, I still really want Vengeance Demon Hunter to be good. Like, if Vengeance Demon Hunter was in a position where it wasn't just good, like, viable. Because a lot of people, when I say good, they always think I mean, like, viable, right? I'm gonna play mostly whatever's meta in retail, because I'm not gonna int my raid. If Vengeance Demon Hunter was literally mandatory to progress raid, and if you didn't have one, you couldn't kill a boss, like Blood DK was, then I would play it just because I wouldn't want to troll my raid group. Like, honestly, while this raid tier, I actually think Blood DK feels really good to play. It's one of my favorite iterations of Blood DK that we've had since... Sepulchre Blood was actually pretty fun, but Sepulchre Blood, because of the tier bonus, was like an isolated thing. Blood has felt pretty awful to play for many, 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 many years, in my personal opinion. I know a lot of people really like Legion Blood. I think Legion Blood felt like shit. I really did not enjoy Blood DK at all during Dragonflight, and yet I actually mained Blood DK for Emir Drasil because my guild really needed one. I played it on almost every single boss. So that's what I'm willing to do if absolutely necessary. But to be completely real, I did not enjoy playing Blood DK, and the moment the tier ended, I said, I'm swapping out Blood DK. And that's actually one of the reasons I left my guild in Emir Drasil. It was a minor reason. I had some other small issues with them. But they kind of didn't want me to switch off Blood DK, and I made it very clear that, hey, I did this to make our progression a little bit easier, but I'm not having fun with this at all, so for farm, once everybody gets their cutting edge achievement, I am not going to do farm on this character. I'm going to switch back to my Brewmaster, and they were not happy with that, and I'm just like, okay, well. That, honestly, if anything, was like a small push I needed to finally say fuck it, because there have been things that I was like mildly annoyed about for a while. That wasn't enough to convince me to leave, but it's a good thing I did because I found my current guild, which I love. Do the quest. Ah, fuck, you're right. I forget to do that one so often. I'm probably going to get this dungeon again in the future, so I'll just remember to do it next time. The amount of times I've done this dungeon over the years and forgotten to do that quest, and I still forget to do it to this day. I appreciate you trying to remind me. Unfortunately, you were too late. You forget it every single time except when you're not on it yourself. I feel that. I feel that so much. Yeah. And then I gotta loot these big guys because they drop the splinters. But yeah, so the thing about Vengeance Demon Hunter is, at least in raids, it has never been meta. I think, well, recently. I think the only time Vengeance DH has ever been meta for raids, as in, like, it was so good that you were kind of trolling if you didn't have one, is Castle Nathria, kinda. And even then, I wouldn't say it was nearly to the extent of a lot of other tanks, where there have been many tiers where it's like, if you don't have a Brewmaster, you're trolling. There have been many tiers where if you don't have a Blood DK, you're trolling, and certain fights are impossible. Like this tier, Brew Twister Ovanax, you didn't need to have a Blood DK, you needed to have two. They could have been alts, though, but both of your tanks needed to play it for Brew Twister. Stuff like that is what I'm talking about, where it is basically required to do the normal strat for the fight. And, like, the first 200 or so guilds that kill it all use the exact same strat, requiring an exact same tank comp. Or if one tank has, like, a 90% popularity. Stuff like that. A lot of times, though, thankfully, that is Brewmaster, which is why I've played Brew so many times over the years. Other times it is Blood DK, which is also why, despite not really enjoying Blood DK in many tiers, I still end up playing it. It has very, very, almost never been Vengeance. And the thing about that tier in question, when Vengeance, like I said, was meta, is while it was technically meta, there were two equally popular strategies. There was Vengeance Brew and Vengeance Prot Warrior. And, oh yeah, because that's an heirloom slot. Most people ran Vengeance Brew, but actually I think Liquid ran Vengeance Prot Warrior. Or, not Vengeance Prot Warrior, they ran... was it? I should clarify and say, of a combination of those three tanks was meta. So you didn't need to have exactly Vengeance Brew or Vengeance Prot. You could have Prot Warrior, Brewmaster Monk. Some combination of those. So I'm pretty sure most of the top guilds ran Vengeance Demon Hunter and Brewmaster Monk. And then Liquid ran something different. And then, like, there were some other guilds. It wasn't super common, but some other guilds ran the Liquid comp as well. And any combination of those three was technically viable. The issue with that was, and that's why it was the case, is Havoc Demon Hunter, DPS Warrior, and Monk DPS. Windwalker's always in a shitty spot. Other than very niche cases like, hey, Windwalker's actually looking pretty good for this upcoming tier, Undermine. But Windwalker has historically been stupid undertuned in Raid, which is one of the main reasons why Brewmaster tends to end up being one of the best tank options. But, what's it called? There have been tiers where Havoc is in a really bad spot, and that was one of those. It was a combination of two things. Havoc was very undertuned, and Vengeance got a bunch of really big buffs in Shadowlands that made them very strong. I would argue they still weren't necessarily insane for raids, which is why it technically wasn't mandatory. There were many guilds that ran Brewmaster Monk Prot Warrior. But because you didn't really want to have a Havoc anyways, it was kind of like, it's an easy way to get the Demon Hunter buff, and they're pretty good. The thing is, even though I had all three of those tanks geared up at the time in Shadowlands and Castle Nathria, Havoc Demon Hunters are still very popular. And at that time, I was not playing at like a super high level. I was in a good guild, but it wasn't super high level. And we had a really good Havoc Demon Hunter. Oh, shit. I could probably solo this. Be a good showcase of Prot Warrior's ability to potentially solo. Unless I die, in which case, maybe not. Yeah. I could disarm, right? Nope, they're immune to that. I think I'm actually going to die for this. Yep, that's whatever. I'll just go back in and turn in the quest. Okay, I can't solo that. Unlucky. So you do need some healing as a Prot Warrior. Especially if you can't chain Victory Rush. That mob also seems to hit pretty hard. What was I saying? Yeah, anyways, back in Castle Nather, TLDR is if you had a Havoc buff, then Vengeance was only like a side grade to a good Prot Warrior or a good, what's it called? Brewmaster Monk. Technically, Prot Warrior was the worst of the three, and of course that was the one I ended up playing, because, yeah, whatever I pick here doesn't matter, it would just be for gold, which, eh. And then you have Cloaks, which also heirloom slot. This will teleport me if I run out back to where I queued in, right? Interesting. One of our guildies kind of is streaming their Ansarek progression. They're like a friend of the guild, and they're in a different guild that's working on it now, and probably going to join us next year. I'll probably watch them do that after I finish stream. Okay, now, before I forget, I'll put up the poll. Always forget how to do that on Twitch. Manage poll. There we go. Create a new poll. What should I stream tomorrow? And I'll put a duration of 5 minutes. I'm not going to allow additional channel point votes, so people can swing it. And I have 5 options. I'll put 4, though. Finish, Cata, Speedrun. Classic, Hardcore, Feral Druid. Just put Classic, Hardcore, Feral, Season of Discovery, or Retail, or actually Retail, Demon Hunter, 70 to 80, Speedrun. Okay, I started a poll on Twitch, so just remember, YouTube people, it would be too difficult to start a poll and then try to, like, I don't know, combine it, and then that would let people vote twice, potentially, so we're just going to do it on Twitch to make things simpler. And I should note, by the way, the length of whatever it is that I'm going to do, because, like, for instance, I put Vengeance Demon Hunter, or it would probably level as Havoc, but Havoc Demon Hunter 70 to 80 speedrun would obviously only take an hour or so, but if I were to stream that, it wouldn't be the only thing that I would do. I would do other stuff after the fact. So maybe I would do 2 of the things. The only stuff that would probably be... And also, I may get bored. Right? So if I'm leveling a hardcore character, what might happen is I get... Well, obviously my hardcore character could die, which that would stop it pretty early. But let's say I get from level 46 to like 48 on my hardcore character after many hours of leveling. It might reach a point where I'm like, maybe I have like a near-death experience or something, and I cannot keep playing today, so then I do something else, and maybe I do a bit more Cataclysm leveling. We'll see. So I might mix and match it. This will just be probably whatever I start with. And I'm guaranteed to do on that day. And, I guess to finish what I was saying, while I have loved Vengeance Demon Hunter at many points in the past, I really don't know what they're doing with the spec. They just really don't know how to design Vengeance DH, I think. And it's really annoying because I'm looking at like the Undermine tier set, and it's so stupid. The Undermine tier set, for reference, if you don't know what it is, for Vengeance, all of the tank 2 pieces are like the same because they're doing roll 2 pieces, which is dumb, but whatever. And all of them are, when you take damage, you have a chance to get a proc, and that proc will give you a damage buff, and it will trigger one of your main defensive abilities for free. It gives you like a free version of that for a few seconds, which is fine, but in raids at least, that's basically useless because you're never going to play around it. Because you can't rely on having that for like a tank buster, so it's slight passive mitigation, which doesn't really feel that impactful. Also, it looks like I ran too far away from the sinkhole before the explosive went off, and that stops you from getting credit. Just didn't know that. So I'll just have to stand close by. But then every single tank has like a 4-piece that kind of builds around their set bonus, their 2-piece, where the proc that you get will do something else. And in some cases, it's really good. Like the Brewmaster 4-piece for Undermine is whenever you get that proc that gives you a damage bonus and gives you Fortifying Brew in the case of Brewmaster, because that's like their main defensive option. At least it's the main baseline defensive option. Because like Dampen Harm you would have to talent into, so it'd be weird if you could proc Dampen Harm, but you didn't actually have it talented. But Brewmaster makes it so your Blackout Kick has a reduced cooldown and does like way more damage, which is really, really good because Blackout Kick is a major part of your rotation, and having more casts of it is crazy strong because Blackout Combo means that whenever you use Blackout Kick, your next Tiger Palm does much more damage. So it's not only a buff to the baseline damage of Blackout Kick, it is a buff to the like damage of Tiger Palm because you're getting more instances of Blackout Combo to buff your Tiger Palm. Really, really, really strong in that sense. So that's actually, even though it is technically random, it feels really good because you don't mind if it happens randomly. You can like fit it into your rotation wherever. It's very nice. And then the Vengeance Demon Hunter one is you have a chance to reset the cooldown of your hunt ability. That's it. Which is like very weird. Also, how I am like a tiny bit of experience away from. Oh, I missed the northern Urubar sinkhole. I never got that one. Well, this quest will definitely get me credit. So I'll do this. I will learn flying in Orgrimmar. And then I will check the results of the poll, and then we'll stop the stream for today. It's been close to 2 hours. Definitely a shorter stream, but not a super short stream. And I got back into the swing of things. I feel comfortable with Prot Warrior again, comfortable enough. And the poll ended, and it's okay. Finish the Cata speedrun. So I guess we're doing that tomorrow. I guess that kind of works out well. We'll just finish this tomorrow. And if we finish early, I actually have an idea of something that I could do. Yeah, that's 72. So considering I've only been leveling for about an hour, because I did a lot of setup early on, getting, what, 3 full levels in 1 hour feels pretty good. And yeah, don't get a new talent point. Right. Always forget that that's how it works. What? Wait, oh my god, that's so silly. So they still have it hard-coded to teleport you to the location of the pre-Cataclysm Zeppelin Tower? What if I wasn't on a flying mount? Would it have just dropped me in the middle of the air? Man. The classic developers are so bad at their jobs, dude. It's technically good for the players that the portals are in, but imagine something that lazy and half-assed remaining in the game for the entirety of Cataclysm Classic's life cycle. Imagine just never addressing that. Holy shit, dude. Such a shame. This is I know that they've improved SOD finally, but that was the main issue that I had with SOD. They were just so bad at making changes in a timely manner. And stuff that was just very obviously not good would persist for way too long. I can equip some of this new stuff. Is this better? 23 strength. Oh, I'm honestly just going to hold on to that. And then I can enchant my bracers. Didn't I get new boots? I did, I just never equipped them. Oops. You don't think it's necessarily that they're bad at their jobs, they're a tiny team? Yeah, okay, I will say that is a very fair point. But, man, it is kind of crazy that some of that stuff slips through. I will say, though, there were definitely cases in Season of Discovery where, like, I kept trying to cut them some slack, but there's some really dumb shit. There's so many things in Season of Discovery that happens that, you know, it's easy enough to say, like, Cataclysm is run by, you know, a team that, like, oh, this stuff slips through the cracks, right? But SOD had so many design changes where it's like, this has nothing to do with it just not being enough people. It's just like, how would anybody who understands how World of Warcraft works make these kind of decisions? Like, the easiest example is incursions. Incursions are just so fundamentally, like, the everything about their design. Except, like, if you look at it from the most basic sense of, there are these cool nightmare portals that you could go through, and there's some quests that you could do. If that was the only thing that you used to describe incursions, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds cool. And when that was pretty much the only thing they said about it going into it, I'm like, this has the potential to be somewhat interesting. But then when you actually see basically everything about how incursions were implemented, I'm just like, who the fuck thought this was a good idea? Also, the way that they balanced a bunch of raids, like Sunken Temple was really egregious, where they start with it being so absurdly overtuned, and then they nerf it by 55%, and then they nerf it again by 55%. That is the biggest swing in terms of tuning that I've ever seen. It turned Sunken Temple from an impossible raid into what I felt was a very fun and balanced raid, into a grossly undertuned raid where everything just kind of falls over unless people fuck up the one mechanic that you have to do, which sometimes still happen because we're dealing with classic players. But I had a lot of fun on, like, the 1.5 weeks that SOD was balanced, or Sunken Temple was balanced after that first set of nerfs. And then I guess people were still complaining, so they just gutted it again. And it just gave me the sense that they have no fucking clue what they're doing. So yeah, maybe, I suppose it is probably a bit hyperbolic for me to use the Zeppelin Tower thing as an isolated example of this is why I think the classic developers are not very good. But I am saying that with the context of having played through the first 3 phases of SOD and already kind of being annoyed at other stuff in Cataclysm Classic, like the pacing. The release pacing of these patches and the constant delays when they said that this was going to be an accelerated classic. And we already know that the biggest issue with Cataclysm is that there was a bit of a content drought early on. So what did they do? They kept us in tier 11, or was it tier 11? Whatever the launch tier of this thing was, Blackwing Descent. They kept us in here for like fucking half a year. It's just the dumbest possible decisions you could make. I don't know if they somehow didn't have Firelands ready. I'm guessing they didn't. But Jesus fucking Christ, then what are you doing? Because, well, I guess they've gotten SOD to an acceptable point now. I definitely know that they weren't making good changes with SOD when I stopped playing. So for all of the months after I quit SOD, if it took them that much effort to fix it that they had to completely abandon Cataclysm, then I don't know, man. It's just been frustrating dealing with this development team. So that is more like a very small isolated incident that just kind of highlights the lack of care that this iteration of WoW is getting, which is unfortunate, even if that alone does not signify it. You agree incursions are the reason you quit SOD? Yeah. Yeah, I would actually say I was definitely a bigger apologist of incursions than a lot of people, but that's kind of another thing where they fucked up incursions and they made it into a really easy way to get gold. If you're going to fuck up at that point, just leave it in. Because the biggest issue that I had is they let it sit for like a day where you could get ridiculous gold. A bunch of people got an insane amount of gold, and then they shut the door on it and nerfed it by an insane amount. And now suddenly it's impossible to get gold. So the damage had already been done. All of the gold that I had already farmed had been devaluated because of all of the shit that they added. But now suddenly I wasn't able to get any of the gold that tons of other people had farmed. And I could do the exact same content as everybody else, but for pennies. Which, that felt even worse. It was like a double whammy. And I've heard about other silly stuff, like they left a PTR vendor in on one of the releases. I don't know, man. I should say this, I am excited to try SOD again, just because it's been a while, and at the very least I've heard they've made good changes with the catch-up system. So I'm going to try that, and I'm going to play around with the new endgame dungeons whenever I do stream SOD, which won't be tomorrow. I'm excited to try it just because it's something different, right? But man, oh man, they have definitely not done an amazing job with SOD. And they keep saying, the other thing that annoyed me is they always will say that this is just a testing ground for Classic Plus. And if they're going to do Classic Plus, please give it to a different set of developers. Because if you keep making mistakes over and over and over, and as a developer, your only excuse is, well, we're not really making mistakes, we're just testing things for a future iteration of WoW that we're going to design. Well, first of all, that's a dogshit excuse. But second off, I don't want you in charge of designing that second iteration of WoW. Pass it off to somebody more capable of responding to changes and not making harebrained decisions like incursions in the first place. That's kind of the bigger issue that I have. Yo, yeah, that's another good one. They've had a bunch of accidental overlaps between SOD and Anniversary servers. Oh god. The fucking Chrono Boon disaster. The one funny thing about that, and I guess this is maybe a good change that came out of it, is now the price of Chrono Boons has been nerfed down to 1 gold because they fucked that up. It's hilarious that they managed to fuck that up in the first place, but I guess it is nice now that I get to save gold on buying Chrono Boons because the Classic team made a mistake. Chrono Boons costing 10 gold was highway robbery in the first place. That never should have been a thing. So I'm glad that change happened, but Jesus Christ. Like, one of my friends bought like 200-something Chrono Boons when that happened, which is why they were forced to do that change in the first place. But it's so silly. The whole thing is so silly. And, yeah, let's buy Artisan Riding. What level is Master Riding? 80? I'm probably not going to buy that on this character, but now, at least for the next time I finish this run, which I guess will be tomorrow, we'll do that. Oh, I also heard, I don't know if this is true, because I only just heard it like a few hours ago, but apparently the new version of Sod Naxxramas caused the like era servers to get health buffs on the Nax bosses, so it's not possible. I only just heard that from one of my friends before I started stream, so I don't know if that's confirmed or not, or some like random person trolling. But it sounds like the exact type of thing that the Classic team would fuck up, which is, again, the exact issue that I have with it. They just constantly make blatantly silly errors like that, which is, it's just like, how do you fuck that up, man? I don't know. There's also, I mean, there's so many things from Cataclysm that they just didn't feel like adding. Void Storage is a big one, where they tried to justify it by saying, like, Void Storage doesn't need to exist because of the Collections tab, which is ignoring the entire point of Void Storage. Instead of just admitting, like, hey, we fucked up and we couldn't get Void Storage enabled in time, they're just like, yeah, we're not going to add it. Because I have so many old, like, collector items on my Prot Paladin that I would love to put into a system like Void Storage, but I can't because it has no place, according to the developers, in Cataclysm Classic. Just one of many silly, silly things. Anyways, I'm just kind of ranting at this point, so I'll stop there. I'm going to pick this up tomorrow. I don't know exactly what time I'll start. It'll definitely be earlier than today, because I started today's stream at like 8 p.m. my time, and I slept for like basically 12 hours. I was exhausted. I got barely any sleep before yesterday's stream, and then I streamed for close to 13 hours. So I was very, 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 very tired by the end. Passed out almost immediately. Slept for basically 12 hours straight. And then when I woke up, my ears were ringing. I literally, I just couldn't, like, I had the worst headache, ears were ringing, and that was at, like, you know, early in the afternoon. So I was planning shortly after I started stream to do that, but I ended up just kind of sitting in bed for a while, just kind of on my phone while I hoped for my, like, head to stop exploding. And then I think I took, like, an hour or so nap, I forget how long it was, but I passed out, woke up again, and then I felt, like, fine enough. I'm still kind of tired, but at least my head didn't feel like it was on fire. So, and then I'm like, okay, I could probably stream. So that's why we're doing a shorter stream today. So hopefully tomorrow I will have enough rest that I can stream earlier in the day and we can get the entire Cataclysm thing done. I definitely feel like with the pace that this has been going, with one normal size stream, 5-ish hours, I can get the last 8 levels of this figured out. So that should be cool. Pixelita said, hope your throat gets better. Get a girl who takes care of you while you work. Astrofield said, I have so many items you keep out of sentimentality too, so you wish for void storage. Yeah, maybe Mop Classic, they'll implement it. Who knows? I definitely think that it's silly that they didn't add it, because there are so many people who yelled at them for that and basically said, hey, that's a really stupid opinion. Tons of us want void storage. Please add it. And they still didn't. So if it was as simple as them adding in void storage, they would have done it, which is, again, one of the main problems that I have. Instead of just admitting, instead of just telling the truth and saying, hey, sorry, guys, we fucked up. We're not good enough at our jobs to figure out how to re-implement void storage. They have to come up with this weird excuse of like, we decided not to add it because void storage isn't necessary. Like, what the fuck do you mean? That's the part that annoys me, honestly. If they were just honest, and I know I said like, we're too shit at our jobs. If they were honest and said like, hey, the code is ancient, it's really hard to implement this, we want to get Cataclysm out ASAP, we don't want to delay just for this one feature that only a few people would get, I would honestly get that. It would be understandable. But they don't do that. They lie. That's the problem. That's what makes me angry. Just stop lying. You're not getting your hopes up? Oh, I'm not either. At this point, I don't think they give enough of a shit. It is unfortunate, though. But anyways, I will stop myself here. I will see you guys tomorrow, where we will finish the rest of this run. Peace. And YouTube people, I have to manually end that.